NTD Newsroom, I'm Don Ma. Tributes continue to pour in for Charlie Kirk. President Trump says it's a dark moment for America, and officials said they have been able to track the gunman's movements before and after the shooting. We have the latest info. Voices from across the political spectrum are reacting to Charlie Kirk's killing and condemning political violence. The president reacts to his death, calling him a champion of young conservatives. Plus, we take a look at the meteoric rise of the young conservative and the legacy he leaves behind. The bell of hope rings at St. Paul's Chapel in New York, marking the moment the first plane struck the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001. We'll hear President Trump's speech from the 9/11 Memorial and the Pentagon.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. President Trump speaking at the Pentagon's Patriot Day Memorial Service, mourning Charlie Kirk and the lives lost in the September 11th attacks 24 years ago. We now go live to NTD's Mari Otsu at the White House. Good afternoon, Mari. What's the mood like there, and can you tell us more about the president's remarks this morning?
Good afternoon to you too, Don. The mood here at the White House is still subdued, just as it was last night after President Trump announced that Charlie Kirk is dead, and he signed a proclamation ordering flags to fly at half-staff in his honor. President Trump this morning, attending the Patriot Day Memorial Service at the Pentagon today, was mourning both Kirk's death and the lives lost on 9/11. Now, the president, on the morning of the attacks in 2001, he was then a real estate developer at the time, says he was in a building in Midtown Manhattan when he saw the second plane hit the World Trade Center with his own eyes. Here's what he's remembering today about September 2001. Take a look.
They stood on their feet and they showed the world that we will never yield, we will never bend, we will never give up, and our great American flag will never, ever fail. That terrible morning 24 years ago, time itself stood still. The laughter of school children fell silent. The rush of our traffic came to an absolute halt. And for 2,977 innocent souls and their families, the entire world came crashing down so suddenly. In the quarter of a century since those acts of mass murder, 9/11 family members have felt the weight of missed birthdays and empty bedrooms, journals left unfinished, and dreams left unfulfilled. To every member that still feels a void every day of your lives, the First Lady and I unite with you in sorrow. And today, as one nation, we renew our sacred vow that we will never forget September 11th.
Today's Pentagon ceremony is coming less than a week after President Trump signed an executive order renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War, which is a designation that the department held from its inception until just after World War II. And today, President Trump is saying that the restoration of the War Department means to send the message that America will find and triumph over any enemy that seeks to attack the U.S. Don?
And Mari, is there any update on how the president's been responding to Charlie Kirk's assassination?
Yes, Don. The president this morning actually began his remarks commemorating Kirk and announcing that he'll award Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. So let's take a listen to what President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth have to say about Charlie Kirk.
Before we begin, let me express the horror and grief so many Americans at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk have felt. Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people. Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. Fantastic people they are. We miss him greatly.
The life, example, and even death of Christ follower and American patriot Charlie Kirk give me hope. Sheer courage, no matter the arena. Charlie, we love you. We know that you have heard the Lord's words. Well done, good and faithful servant. Full heart, clear eyes. Like those on 9/11, he will never be forgotten.
President Trump also adds a message of hope to his remarks, saying he has, quote, no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. And officials on both sides of the aisle are generating a flurry of tributes and calls for unity in the wake of Kirk's murder, and it's looming large on the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. On Wednesday night, Utah Governor Spencer Cox condemned voices that have celebrated Kirk's death. Let's listen to what Cox has to say.
If anyone in the sound of my voice celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I pray that those who hated what Charlie Kirk stood for will put down their social media and their pens and pray for his family, and that all of us will try to find a way to stop hating our fellow Americans.
And Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, is writing about what he calls an ideology that inevitably leads to violence. He says, quote, we see the workings of this ideology in every posting online cheering the evil assassination that cruelly robbed this nation of one of its greatest men. Postings from those in positions of institutional authority, reveling in the vile and the sinister with the most chilling glee. Adding that the fate of society depends on the defeat of this ideology, he says, now we devote ourselves with love and unyielding determination to finishing the indispensable work to which Charlie bravely devoted his life and gave his last measure of devotion. Now, meanwhile, the Salt Lake City FBI is asking for the public's help in identifying a person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting. The FBI is also offering a reward of up to $100,000 for any information leading to the identification and arrest of anyone responsible for Kirk's murder. Today, Vice President J.D. Vance is visiting Kirk's family in Utah, and President Trump says that he plans to speak with Kirk's family later this afternoon. Don, back to you.
Okay, Mari, thank you very much. Next, the State Department will now take action against foreigners in the U.S. praising Charlie Kirk's death. Some people have been comparing Kirk to infamous dictators, saying they support the assassination. Deputy Secretary of State Chris Landau says foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country. The State Department will now take, quote, appropriate action against people who support the attack. Landau also calls on people to inform the State Department on people who make comments supportive of the assassination. In Salt Lake City, Utah, the Vice President and Second Lady will meet with Charlie Kirk's family and a number of his close friends. Charlie's casket, along with his family and friends, will then be flown to Phoenix, Arizona, aboard Air Force Two. Joining us now to discuss the assassination of Turning Point USA President Charlie Kirk is Joshua Phillip. He's a senior investigative reporter at the Epoch Times and host of Crossroads on Epoch TV. So, Josh, thank you very much for joining us here today. What have been your thoughts so far on what's transpired?
Well, it's horrible. I knew Charlie Kirk. In fact, I was supposed to speak at an event with him just this last weekend, which I unfortunately had to cancel. But watching the video was horrifying. So it's a sad day for the country.
So you've had interactions with him in the past. What impression did he give off to you about what kind of person he was?
You know, Charlie Kirk, for a lot of the conservative movement and people who are more on that side of politics, he was kind of like a brother. A lot of people regarded him as like that level of a peer. Even if you weren't like on super, you weren't like a super close friend with him. He never came off as mean or like, violent. He was all about really just engagement, having peaceful conversations. And I think that's going to be his legacy, that we should be able to have conversations across political ideologies. We should be able to have debates in the open, should be able to have conversations. And I think what's really frightening for a lot of people right now is they're basically saying that, is it safe to have these kinds of conversations when there are people being told that it's hateful or wrong to oppose each other's viewpoints in an open, peaceful manner? Should we be able to have debate as a nation? That's really what's at stake here, depending on how this is handled.
And President Trump has said this is a dark moment for the U.S., and it really is when we have to even question whether it's going to be safe to express our thoughts. Do you believe this could be a pivotal moment here?
I think this will be a pivotal moment, but I think Trump is actually looking to make sure that what Charlie Kirk represented did not die yesterday, when Charlie was shot. I think what Trump is doing right now is he's trying to make sure that going forward, Charlie becomes a martyr of something greater, that what he represented for this nation is something that becomes more part of the culture. And what Trump is talking about doing right now, he's talking about launching investigations into the people he believes are responsible for this. He's talking about basically investigating the organizations, the news outlets, the groups, the NGOs that were getting money and that were financing, funding, pushing this entire narrative, trying to frame anybody who had a different viewpoint than the establishment viewpoint as somehow being a fascist. This idea that if you just had a different opinion than somebody, you deserved to be attacked. That you had violence at schools with masked individuals beating people up, protesting, trying to stop events. It's a very wild time we've been under for the last 10 plus years. And what Trump is talking about doing now is basically investigating and maybe uprooting that entire system that has made it impossible to have open debate.
I mean, lawmakers are saying as well, this is no justification for violence of this kind. There's no room for political violence in the United States. And Charlie came into the scene around when he was 18 up until now. What ways do you think Charlie's influence has already changed this country?
It's been interesting watching the reactions of people across partisan lines. And while you do have some crazy people on like Reddit especially, and like Blue Sky, praising the death, saying we need more like this, and even calling for more violence, it's being met with a huge wave of people who are kind of disgusted by it. And you have a lot of people who, let's be honest, in this country, we are unfortunately very divided. We have very different political viewpoints across political aisles. And I think for a long time, we've not been able to see eye to eye with each other. It is interesting to see that a lot of people who were, in fact, very deeply divisive are having a moment of inflection. A lot of people are saying, I understand that maybe we don't always get along with each other. We don't understand each other, maybe. But I think we should all condemn the use of violence as a way to deal with these divisions. I know that, Senator Fetterman came out very, he's been more in the middle, politically, but he came out very, one of the first and really condemned this act of violence. You had Stephen Colbert come out and make statements on it. He's of course more on the left, and you've had people really coming out and saying basically, that we might have disagreements, but violence is not a way to solve that.
Josh, what do you think? Where do we go from here? What I'm worried about here is how can we prevent this from ever happening again?
Well, I think we need to understand the cause of it. If you have people demonizing others, saying that having a different viewpoint is somehow the equivalent of violence, then what's the conclusion of that? Well, obviously, if somebody's acting in violence, then legally it's acceptable to use violent stuff to stop violence. If you start framing speech and offensive speech as being equivalent to violence, there are people who believe that violence is a okay tool to use to stop speech. And I think that is a terrible development we've had in this country, where there are people who believe that because the media has told them that for so long. I think we have people who've been brainwashed to hate this country. We have kids who believe that the color of your skin makes you inherently guilty of some kind of crime, and to an extent on both sides. I think that I hope that this country does a bit of soul searching, and I understand that, you know, there are people going to want to push restrictions on guns and so on. Look, you have people stabbing people. Guns are not the cause of it. Guns are a tool for use, but they're not the cause of it. I think we need to reflect on what the cause is, and I do believe that you know, we've been gaslit to an extent. We've been gaslit to believe somehow that everybody else is our enemy, and I hope that ends. I hope we come together as a nation.
Okay, Josh, I'll just close with this. What do you think Charlie himself would urge people to do in response to this? What do you think is the legacy he's leaving behind?
I think Charlie's legacy is what he frankly was doing when he was shot. He was having open debate. He was saying, disagree with me, come and sit at the same table as me, and let's have a conversation. The event he was shot at, that is literally what he was doing at the time of his death. And I think that's what he stood for more than anything. You know what? We might not understand each other, we might not agree with each other, but we can sit down at the same table and have a conversation. And I think that kind of peaceful debate is what will help this country heal. And I think what we need more than anything right now.
I agree, Josh. Thank you very much for having this conversation with us.
Thank you.
Coming up, voices from across the world are reacting to Charlie Kirk's killing and condemning political violence. Stay tuned.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
The impact of Charlie Kirk's assassination is being felt across the globe. World leaders are reacting to the fatal shooting. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson brings us more.
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni posted on X, calling the news of Charlie Kirk's death shocking. Meloni called the assassination a gruesome murder, a deep wound for democracy and for those who believe in freedom. She also sent her condolences to Kirk's family, his loved ones and the American conservative community. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also weighed in on social media, saying Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom, a lion-hearted friend of Israel. He fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. Netanyahu said Kirk's boundless pride in America and his belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Irish Deputy Premier Simon Harris said he was horrified upon hearing the news and said political violence is never acceptable.
It's very easy for people to condemn violence, political violence, threats of political violence when it's against somebody that they agree with. It's actually more important that it's condemned when that violence is carried out against somebody whom you may have different views.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer posted his condolences to Kirk's family and friends on X. Starmer added, quote, "We must all be free to debate openly and freely without fear. There can be no justification for political violence." His Home Secretary Yvette Cooper added, "Political violence has no place in our societies." Reform UK party leader Nigel Farage said Kirk's influence was not just large in America, but had a growing presence in Britain.
Especially after he spoke at the Oxford Union last month. I absolutely believe in free speech, but we all understand there are limits to free speech. Incitement, constant personal vilification. I think it's incumbent upon all of us, whichever side of the divide we're on, however passionately we feel, to behave with personal responsibility, and I mourn the loss of my friend.
Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
We have two guests now joining us to discuss the assassination of Turning Point USA President Charlie Kirk. Attorney Madeline Somerville, political speechwriter and strategist, and we also have Brad Palumbo, Steamboat Institute, Blankley Fellow and co-founder of Based Politics. Thank you so much both for joining us this afternoon. So Madeline, if I may, I'll start with you. Do you think rhetoric played a role here in creating conditions for attacks such as this?
I think that the president's suggestion that rhetoric played a role in this is going to serve to divide us more. This is a time when we actually have an opportunity to come together, and Democrats have an opportunity to stand up and say, absolutely not will we stand behind anything like this. He didn't deserve this for what he said. There's no justification possible for this. And Democrats would do well to say, let's come together on this issue, because this is what America is all about, is being able to speak freely for what you believe in. And I think that the suggestion by the president that liberals are responsible for this is going to serve to divide us, and it hurt us in the long run.
Brad, your reaction?
Yeah, look, I think it is too soon to say that anyone in particular is directly to blame for this, other than the evil monster that took Charlie Kirk's life. And I hope that he is held to the fullest extent of the law accountable. However, I think it is premature for President Trump to go out there and blame rhetoric directly. But we can at this point, and we actually should have a long time ago, concluded that we all need to calm down the rhetoric. I mean, whether it is constantly progressives calling everyone a Nazi, an authoritarian, a dictator, a racist, a sexist, whether it's the bizarre invocation and creation of ideas like policy violence, where you are equating disagreement with violence, or saying that words are violence. These ideas lead to actual violence, and I do think we need to tamp down on them. And I would say the same about Republicans who demonize all Democrats as anti-American traitors or whatever you may have. We should all take a lesson from this. Even though the shooter's ultimate motivations are still not clear at this point, we've seen so much political violence in the last several years targeting both sides, but we should all take down the temperature. But unfortunately, I'm not very optimistic that will actually happen.
Okay, you guys, I brought a clip for you. Have a listen to this.
Excuse me, full of I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
I've never seen someone do this.
Well, it's a growing trend because people like me are facing violence, assaults. The left. Yes, the campus Antifa. I've been stormed out of restaurants. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats.
Okay, so what's your goal in all this?
There's more people that agree with me than some people would actually believe, and they come out of the woodwork when I do stuff like this. We record all of it so that we put on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.
Madeline, you know, Charlie was really good with engaging with everyone, whether it's people that agree with him or people that disagree with him. I believe he saw everyone as human beings, not enemies. Perhaps, Madeline, that's something we as a country can learn from.
Everything that Charlie just said in that clip was wonderful and absolutely coincides with the values that every American has, because we do demonize the other side. We do see them as less than human, and it gets worse when the White House posts things like Democrats love crime, like they did yesterday, or liberals are the reason for violence. You are dehumanizing people once again. This should not be a political tool from the right or the left or anyone. What Charlie did was he brought civil discourse back, and he proved that the Democrats lost their ability to persuade, or maybe they just forgot that it was a thing in the first place, because that's a fundamental piece of democracy. It's what our founding fathers wrote about in the Federalist Papers, right? The goal is to persuade someone else that you're right. And he took that very seriously. And he saw a new generation of kids who felt stifled because they were at home after COVID, who got the ability to vote. And he said, they're open-minded and I'm going to persuade them. And it worked. And he did do that. And that did make him dangerous. But it also makes him somebody who stands up for American values. And if we disagreed with him, we needed to fight back, but in a way that is with words and not actions.
Brad, I want to hear your reactions to the clip.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think it exemplifies the best part of Charlie Kirk's legacy. I disagreed with him on many things. I pushed back on his rhetoric at times, but what was he best known for? Going to these college campuses, sitting down and talking to people with whom he disagreed, doing massive debates on YouTube, Jubilee, 20 versus 1, 25 versus 1. That is what he'll be most remembered for. And I've watched many clips from those, as has basically anybody under 30, right? Because he was a master of social media and the algorithms and going viral. And oftentimes he would have a crowd of supporters, and some far left, maybe LGBTQ student would come up, and he would tell his audience to be respectful, let them speak, don't boo. He would admonish them to listen, and he would talk about how we need to hear each other out. And frankly, he would engage in these debates, and he was quite good at it, and he would often destroy their arguments, or as he would see it, and as he would cut it up and clip it, but he wasn't attacking them or belittling them or mocking them. In almost all cases, he was engaging with the ideas and talking to people with different viewpoints. And I think that's something beautiful. I think that's something fundamentally American, and I think it's a legacy we should all learn from.
So Madeline, I want to talk to you about the legacy that Charlie is leaving behind. What do you think is Charlie's biggest impact, and what will that be remembered as?
I think it highlights the importance of civil discourse. I think that's what he's done. And I'm afraid that people will take this tragedy and say there's no hope anymore for civil discourse. That's what I'm afraid of. But here's the thing, when tragedies like this happen, it's not a sign that bad things can only happen in the future. It's literally a turning point, not to use his company's name in vain, but to actually use it in the way that I think he intended, which is, I think this is a turning point, right? Do we give up on civil discourse, or do we take this as an opportunity to remember that this is what we stand for and what we care about? And again, I do want to emphasize that the president's rhetoric right now, and Elon Musk's, and all of the people, not like my colleague here on the panel, because I respect his opinions very much, but there are a lot of other influencers out there that are demonizing and dehumanizing people in a way that Charlie Kirk didn't. So I'm hoping that this serves as a turning point, and that his legacy serves as a turning point in America so that we can come together and not further apart.
Brad, final thoughts here. How do you think Americans can begin to properly honor Charlie's legacy?
Well, I think there's two ways things can go. One of them is a path where we learn from this, we all come together, reject it, and we renew our commitment to civic discourse and dialogue and peaceful disagreement and coexistence. Honestly, I think that's what you've seen from most people, not all, but most people on the left and right in mainstream politics. Democratic politicians, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Obama, all came out and immediately forcefully denounced this. Obviously, Republicans have as well. But then there's another path. There are the fringe left-wing influencers cheering and dancing on TikTok and getting hundreds of thousands of likes, celebrating the murder of a father in front of his child. And then there's the right-wing people saying, this is war, now we must destroy the left. I'm telling you, that way madness lies. That way unrest, civil unrest, and potentially even civil war lies. Charlie Kirk himself warned against that many times. So I'm hoping that we can see the better of our kind of twin spirit here and take the path towards light and reconciliation and coexistence, not towards more death and destruction and chaos.
And I think that's what Charlie would have wanted as well. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, the Bell of Hope rings at St. Paul's Chapel in New York, marking the moment the first plane struck the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001. Don't go away.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Or how did I get here?
Done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms. Thank you. Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast? No thanks, we're good. They're always in their own world. What'd you get there? Twice the work. Twice the surprises. Just try it. Good. But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling. You should ask her yourself.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
My mom and dad were traditional Asian parents.
Now my father would go to work before I woke up in the morning. And then he would come home too tired to play with me. I tell my son, I love you every single day. Now my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. So I teased him the other day and I said, how come you never say that to me? And he said, you're too old now. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the material things, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious minute or moment.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We have breaking news. Law enforcement officers on September 11th rushed to the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee after learning of a potential bomb threat. A U.S. Capitol Police spokesperson told the Epoch Times in an email, officers immediately responded and are currently checking the building and surrounding areas. So far, nothing has been found outside. The spokesperson also said, we are checking inside of the building out of an abundance of caution. Meanwhile, the bell of hope rang out at St. Paul's Chapel in New York this morning to mark the moment at 8:46 local time, when the first of the two planes hit the World Trade Center in 2001. The bell was presented to New York City by the City of London and has rung on every 9/11 anniversary since 2002.
Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope.
And in Arlington, Virginia, a U.S. flag was unfurled on the side of the Pentagon today to mark the 24th anniversary of the September 11th attack. Joining us now is Jason Johnson, president of Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund and former police executive. So, Jason, thank you so much for your time today. Two topics I wanted to talk to you about. The attack on the U.S. 24 years ago today, and what some lawmakers are calling an attack on the First Amendment after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So first, let's talk about the attack on 9/11. What comes to mind for you when you think back on the courage of first responders on 9/11?
Well, it's remarkable, and I think it's one of the things that we all reflect back, those of us who are of a certain age, and recall that day, and we remember where we were and what we were doing, and the horror of the moment and the fear. I myself was a young law enforcement officer working in Maryland, and I remember the feeling of going to work in uniform and encountering people, and everyone in the community was just so grateful. Although I had nothing to do with the response to the World Trade Center or the Pentagon or Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the fact that I wore that uniform, people in the community felt a sense of gratitude, of humility, and really went out of their way to thank me and thank my colleagues for the work that we do, even though we had nothing to do with that in particular. And so it was, although it was a tragic and horrifying day and moment, and the time after it was, and it continues to be to some degree, just thinking about it. Something good did come from it, and unfortunately, some days it doesn't feel like that lasted. But there was a sense of community and unity at the time that was very, very nice and welcome.
Can you speak to us about, for you, why is it important that we continue to tell these stories of the firefighters, of the police officers, and others who ran towards the danger that day?
You know, I think it's important because, you know, and I have young children of my own who we sometimes forget, didn't live through that, and don't know the stories of that day, don't know about all of those men and women who died, not only the firefighters and police officers, but just regular people trying to go about their daily lives, either taking a plane across the country or going to work in the World Trade Center or the Pentagon. You know, just ordinary Americans and the sacrifices they made. You know, it's easy to forget that ordinary Americans on board the flight that eventually crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, were heroic as well. They stepped up and tried to protect themselves and their fellow passengers, and also protect people on the ground that they didn't even know. And that is really at its heart, that is the spirit of what this country is about, is looking out for one another, protecting one another, standing as one, even though we're not going to always agree.
And speaking of which, can you talk to us about in what ways do you think 9/11 changed this country?
Well, look, we have all sorts of processes to get onto an airplane now, security processes, get into sporting events and venues. It really opened our eyes to the idea of security and protecting the homeland, and being aware of the fact that there are international and domestic terrorists that want to impact our lives in dramatic ways, simply because they don't agree with our way of life. And it really opened that up. And in some ways, I think, at least in the short term, the people that lived through that had a renewed sense of purpose and importance. A lot of people entered the military and public service because of what they witnessed, and the heroism and the respect that we had for first responders and the people in the military and others who work for the betterment of and protection of our communities. And so I think that's having a lasting impact. And referring back to your last question, it's a really good reason why young people need to learn about what happened that day and how it did radically change our country.
And how should young people learn about this? How should schools and educators teach students about these sacrifices made?
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, you can show some of the news coverage that day. I remember being inspired just seeing the news coverage, and journalists who were there on the ground were chronicling the work that was being done at Ground Zero in New York City and here in DC at the Pentagon, and just showing those stories as they were told that day. They don't even need to be filtered through an educator today. It's well documented. What happened, maybe studying some of the lives of the people that were involved. Again, not just first responders, but also people who, ordinary citizens who stepped up that day to protect their fellow American, fellow community member. Very, very important not to forget those lessons.
All right, Jason, I also wanted to talk to you about the horrible event that happened yesterday, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. What can you tell us about the manhunt for the shooter being carried out? Any angle you'd like to speak on that?
Yeah, it's as I think is being discussed in the media now. This is a full court press. So state, local, federal resources are 100% focused on this investigation. It is a difficult investigation because it appears that the shooter was some distance away. I've heard reports of 200 yards or more. It does seem to be a sniper shot. So, and the fact that there was low security at the event, so there was no security perimeter. This person was able to assassinate Charlie Kirk and then leave the scene and get a good head start. However, there will be lots and lots of video. There will be lots of electronic evidence. There's lots of evidence for the FBI and other authorities to sift through. Lots of people were video recording the incident. There's a very good chance that on some of those recordings, they're going to capture images of the suspect that can be enhanced. As the suspect fled, probably ran past some houses or some other place that had surveillance cameras or even Ring doorbell cameras that will be processed and analyzed. There will be cell phone data to look at. There will be social media information. There will be people that will come forward and say, I know somebody who threatened to do this. This person will be caught. They will be caught, 100% certain of that. And anyone that helped them either before or after will be identified and caught. And this is, you can't think of really a more serious case where it will be prosecuted, probably in state and federal court. There probably will be federal jurisdiction. I'm confident they will be caught, and that's very important. That whenever we have something like this happen, there has to be accountability for it.
So we're getting latest reports that the FBI actually canceled or rescheduled a press conference about the assassination of Charlie Kirk due to rapidly unfolding events. We'll update our viewers on that a bit more later. But I want to follow up on what you're saying, that you're very confident that this suspect will be caught. What makes you so confident? Because the FBI is releasing images of the person of interest, asking for public input. So it seems like the FBI perhaps is needing help, right? So what makes you so confident?
Well, law enforcement often needs help. Law enforcement doesn't always have all the answers. They rely on members of the community to come forward with information that they have. And it takes a long time to go through evidence. Of course, they want to make an arrest as quickly as possible. This person, whoever did this, is a grave threat to public safety. We don't know what they may or may not do next. They may flee the jurisdiction. They may flee the country. And so obviously speed and the quicker they can close this case, the more likely it will be solved. I believe the solution is very, very likely. I believe this person will be identified and caught. Doesn't mean it's going to happen today or tomorrow. But evidence has a way of building over time, and people come forward with information, and evidence has to be analyzed. He left, from what I understand, the reports are that this person left the firearm behind. That will be processed. Obviously, there'll be ability to potentially trace the firearm and figure out where it came from, or where it was stolen from, or where it was purchased. And through the course of the investigation, of course, there are lots and lots of resources on the ground working on this case. And every lead will be able to be followed up on. Every tip that they get will be able to be followed up on. Every piece of evidence will be able to be analyzed by the FBI or others. And that's what gives me the confidence that this case will be solved.
Okay, well, Jason, thank you very much for commenting on this topic today.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we take a look at the meteoric rise of the young conservative Charlie Kirk and the legacy he leaves behind. Stay tuned.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
How Gen X are getting their teenage bodies back.
So this is my mom and this is my grandma. I recently posted a picture of the three of us and people were shocked. They are demanding to know your secrets. So what are they? Is it some new trendy diet?
Nope. I love going out to eat too much.
So then what's your go-to workout?
I don't work out.
You have to tell me what you're doing.
This is gonna sound kind of funny. I learned it from Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris?
He just does one simple thing every morning and now I do too.
I have to know what this is.
He made a video about it. Let me show you.
It felt like my entire body was on fire. I remember waking Chuck up and telling him, "You need to take me to the hospital." At the time, I had no idea I'd been poisoned by a series of MRIs.
It was scary.
The damage to my brain was severe, and I could barely speak. I lost muscle mass, and I couldn't even get out of the bed. I had an IV in me for 5 months, every day. And through it all, my wonderful husband never left my side. Look at me now. I'm healthier than I've ever been. Thank you, honey. It's because of you.
So, what did you change?
Well, what Chuck discovered was a game changer for us. And I'll tell you, it's nothing to do with crazy exercises or fad diets, nothing like that. And it's just really simple. Chuck and I do this one thing every day.
Yeah, we do.
And lots of other people are feeling great too.
Everyone's body has a built-in code. This code predicts how your body will age. I call it your aging type. And if you know it, it could help you dramatically improve your health. That's why I created this simple quiz that'll determine which age type fits you best and allow you to finally feel like a younger, healthier version of yourself. It was only after I learned my own age profile that I was able to choose the right diet for my body. In fact, I started feeling better in a matter of days. Answer just 6 simple questions. You won't be asked for your email or for anything else for that matter. We've kept the quiz short, simple, and free. So go ahead and click the link below to find out your aging type and get the crucial tips you need to feel amazing today.
Scan the QR code with your phone now.
And joining us now to give us his thoughts on the assassination of Charlie Kirk is Jan Jekielek, senior editor at the Epoch Times and host of American Thought Leaders. Thank you for joining us, Jan. So the manhunt for the suspect is still underway. Your thoughts on what's happened so far?
Well, first of all, this is an unbelievable tragedy. I mean, I think Charlie Kirk personified, some of the best of what I've come to know as the conservative movement, right? He had a few things, he was a man of faith, a deep believer. He believed that the people on the other side, the people that he was trying to communicate were not evil. He believed that, communication, but even in very fraught circumstances, was the way actually for us to figure things out as a society. And that was him acting on the convictions of his faith. So it's there's this horrible irony in the fact that that his life was cut short through violence, right? There's this idea that speech is violence, which is a very far left kind Marxist idea that's out there, and it's actually quite the opposite. In fact, speech is something that is a unique, maybe not entirely unique, but a unique human thing that is actually our way to be able to resolve conflict in ways that don't involve violence. It's through speech that we can do that, even when we have ideas which are incredibly contentious. So, what has happened? I feel like there's been an inflection point almost, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen next, but I feel like, this has basically hit the culture in a way that I haven't seen many things hit. Even looking back to Butler when President Trump was almost assassinated.
So you're saying you're not sure what might happen next, but do you have a general sense of optimism of what's to come?
Well, I mean, because I'm kind of like Charlie Kirk, right? Whatever their darkness there may be, in this respect, right? I'm always looking for a way to actually find solutions, which he did. I've been looking at reactions from various people, and it's frankly quite a range. On the one side, you have people really thinking hard and basically being kind of inspired by Charlie and the fact that he was it was his speech that was his weapon. He was able to actually go out and convince young people through logic, through thoughtfulness, that his way of looking at the world, that the more traditional viewed way is correct. So, and there's a lot of people celebrating that. On the other end, there's all sorts of people, and I hate to say this, but there's people that have actually been celebrating what had happened, right? And this is a very disturbing feature of our culture, and just shows how, an incredibly fraught time we're in today. And then there's a whole lot of people that don't know what to make of it. There's people that are in mourning. There's people, and I'm still in this category somewhat, who are in a bit of shock. So, I mean, what I hope happens, right? You said you mentioned optimism, is that we learn from Charlie's way, and we are inspired by it and enact that as our approach to solving our problems.
So Jan, I was talking to our previous guests about rhetoric and whether that has played a role in fostering the conditions of what happened. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on this as well.
Well, I think President Trump spoke to this a little bit in his address the other night. The bottom line is, right, you can have all sorts of disagreements. You can vociferously disagree with people. But the moment that you demonize people in very extreme ways, like, for example, calling them Hitler, calling them Nazi, calling them all that kind of stuff, right? You kind of expect there's going to be unhinged people who will take this to heart. And I think this is something that we have to de-escalate from. And I have seen that, again, I'm optimistic. I've seen people who have used such, I'm not going to name names, but who have used such rhetoric in the past come back and say, wow, we really can't use violence as a solution to what we're doing. But basically, you can kind of imagine, if you knew someone was Hitler, going to become Hitler, you can kind of cause the level of death that he did, for example. You can imagine coming up with all sorts of reasons why you might make an exception and behave unethically and do something crazy, basically to stop them, right? So this is why this very extreme rhetoric is something that we really have to stop in our society. And I want to add that our adversaries, right? I'm thinking communist China. That's where my eyes go all the time. They're taking full advantage of this discord and so forth. There's even a clip I saw folks at China Uncensored pulled it out. You have one of these known CCP propagandists, kind of pushing this idea, basically pushing this anti-Semitic trope that Charlie had somehow figured out that the Jews did it. I mean, it's really horrible stuff. But our adversaries are looking to fuel this, and this is where we don't want to kind of fall down to our lesser angels, so to speak. We want to this is the time where we want to be thoughtful and rely on our reason and our principles.
And Jan, we really need to find a solution to this, because we cannot have things like this be normalized. President Trump has called this a dark day in American history. How do we as a nation come together, have heated debates, but not resulting to violence?
Well, again, this is actually something that Charlie Kirk had pioneered, and indeed, at the moment that he was assassinated, he was in the process of doing. He would go into places where not everybody agreed with that. In fact, a lot of people didn't agree with him, and welcome others to come and discuss and debate and figure things out. Maybe he could convince a few people. The key part, right, is that if we don't do that, if we sort of give up on the attempt to communicate with, we'll call it the other side, right? That's the moment where we start resorting to violence to deal with our problems. This is what was done before we figured out, the speech and natural law and so forth.
Okay, Jan, thank you very much for your time today. Should young Americans be fearful of engaging in political activities? Hear what senators on Capitol Hill have to say after the break.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. In ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Puretang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Puretang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Being a cowboy, well, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
My name is Iris Tao, and I'm NTD's White House correspondent. I was born in China, mainland China, so I grew up, kind of like absorbing a lot of the Chinese propaganda, both in school, when it comes to newspapers, TV, and everything. But when I first came to the US, I moved here with my family, and then I was experiencing this cultural shock when I saw a lot of, let's say, human rights issues in China. So that's what kind of motivated me to actually start interning for NTD. In my current role, I actually report for both English NTD and Chinese NTD. So I think what drives me every day is a sense of responsibility, not only to the English audience, but also to the Chinese audience, which actually spreads both across the US, around the world, and actually a lot of them are inside China who uses like VPN or some other technologies to break through the firewall to watch NTD. So I think a big sense of responsibility comes from my urge to, tell them what's happening, how China's